Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Industry Sessions. My name is Chris Wade, and I am your Music Forward host today. Music Forward is a national nonprofit organization inside the Live Nation family with a mission to transform young lives, inspire careers, and champion a more inclusive music industry. Music Forward provides artist development and career development programs to inspire the next generation. To check out our programs, find out more in the links in our chat. We're bringing you a special industry session today in partnership with Columbia College Chicago and their Audio Engineering Society. We have an exciting panel today, and I'm eager to get started, so I want to invite our special industry guest to join me on camera. Please welcome Angel Haze, Celine Rolon, and Carrie Mae Smith. Today, we're going to dig into the journey of our guest artist, Angel Haze, and the artist team behind her that makes the magic happen. So let's begin with our panelists telling us a little bit more about themselves. Let's start with Angel. Please tell us a little about your career and your journey in the industry.
Wow, that's a long story, but to make a long story short, I started really young and I'm grateful for it. I've gotten to see a lot of things. I've gotten to visit a lot of places. I've gotten to do extraordinary things that I'm proud of myself for. And now I'm recreating. I think identity is something that is incredible and I've just been finding my way through. So to sum up, my career has been a lot of self-exploration in front of a lot of people. And that is great.
Thank you, welcome. Selena.
Hi, I'm Celine Rolon and I'm an artist manager. I started my career, it was fueled by a career advisor telling me that it would be impossible to be a graphic designer at the age of 15, which then spurred me to be crazy and to prove them wrong. And I became a radio producer at 18, and then I became a product manager for Sony Music at 20. And I've been independent for the last 12 years, touring and managing artists globally.
Awesome, thank you. Carrie Mae.
Hi, I'm Carrie Mae. It started when I was younger and I was performing music, like most of my, like between 0 or 2 and 18. And I really loved performing music. And so I went to UCLA to pursue a degree in music. And that's where I found the music industry program. And I started at the music industry program, became a music industry minor and just learned to love it. And since then, I've been interning and working with Selena and Angel and a variety of other artists and just loving every moment.
Awesome, thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge first and foremost that, it's just amazing to see like a team of women working together to push forward, a creative endeavor by an artist. I just want to acknowledge that and just say, salute to y'all for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I would love for everyone to answer this question individually. When or how did you know that you had found your career path? So starting with Angel, for you as an artist, when was that moment for you?
I really didn't even realize it until I was on stage for the first time. I think I had gone to New York to meet this guy who was stalking me via email. It was my first manager. He had stalked me for like 8 months, consistently sending me emails like, yo, you could be a star, yo, you could blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, dude, leave me alone, you're weird. And he finally got through to me. I go to New York and it was at SOB's. And I think that night, Dom Kennedy and Iggy Azalea were playing. And Dom threw me on stage for 15 minutes. And I rapped the entire time with my head down because I was super scared, astronomically scared. And I lifted up and everyone was cheering and I was like, holy crap, that was amazing. That was like one of the most exhilarating moments in my life. And when I got off stage, things just changed. And I was like, wow, like this is crazy. I actually ended up recording my first project. I was like 18, Jess Blaze and Omen. They gave me the studio in New York and I had no money. I was like taking the Greyhound up from Virginia every weekend. And then I just stayed and I was like, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. And I've been on that journey since. So it's like, transformative, I think.
So I have a funny anecdote, and I would never share this with anybody from Music Forward. I've seen you on the bus because I used to take that trip too. So yeah, a long time ago, I've seen you in Penn Station.
Yo, that's hilarious. That's crazy. Yeah.
And I knew who
Every
you were, and I was like,
weekend.
"Oh, that's Angel Haze. That's cool." And I remember thinking that, and I was like, "That's crazy." So it's funny you brought that up, because
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything about that.
Yeah. A lot of people think I'm from New York, but like I had to do what I had to do, bro. I was selling verses online to make the money for the bus ticket to get there and have enough money to eat for the weekend. And I was like recording 13 songs a night. Like I didn't care. It was just time to do it. So, I love that. And that's when I knew.
Grind is real. Respect to you for that. Selena, when did you know? When was that moment? Was it, just something that clicked for you, or was it an experience? How did you just have that?
I
Like, this is it.
I always, I mean, I'm in the time zone of having Walkmans, tape cassette Walkmans. So I used to like always like go around school playing everybody, putting my headphones on them and going, listen to this, listen to this. So I was always obsessed with it, but I never knew that there was actually a career, you could have a career in music. That was just, I mean, my career advisor told me I couldn't be a graphic designer. This is where I came from. But I was sat in a car listening to the radio station that I ended up working at, which was about 45 minutes drive from me. And I was just listening, they were having so much fun. Like, and I was like, these people get paid to actually have fun and play music all day. And they were like, and I was like, I want that. I'm going to go for that. And I sent them a letter, and they obviously said no, because who am I? But 6 months to the day of that letter, because she said in the letter, try back in 6 months or we don't have anything. So I took the bus to the radio station, and I went and knocked on the door, and I asked for the lady's name, and I said, hey, can I see Rebecca Smith? And they were like, do you have an appointment? I said, no, she sent me a letter. And that kind of started from there. So I kind of fell into it, but just from blind, kind of naive, just needed to do it. It was just something inside of me that just made me get on that bus that day. So, and it's just snowballed ever since.
Love it. Thank you. Karamay, what about you?
I think for me, it was just when I was in college, I would always make Spotify playlists. And I never thought anything of it. But then there were a couple times where I would just be playing music with my friends, and they'd be like, wow, like this is such like an interesting vibe. Like, what do you call this? Where can I find it? And then I just discovered that like in my free time, I was taking all this time to like find new artists, find new songs, and that could actually be something I could pursue in a sense. And ever since then, I've just been like seeking every opportunity I can to like work in A&R, work in management, just be on the front lines of finding new artists and helping them grow.
Awesome. Awesome. So, as I'm sure you all have experienced a lot, the music industry has really evolved tremendously over the past 3 to 5 years. In what ways would you say it's changed? And how has that changed your approach to both the creative side as well as your approach to the business side? And that's kind of for everyone.
I mean, it's changed a lot. If I'm from my standpoint, I started 23 years ago. Sorry, Carrie May, with your Spotify playlist, I've got the Walkman. So it's changed tremendously, and it just changes constantly, and it's evolving every single year. But the last 2 to 5 more specifically is, obviously there's streaming, TikTok, TikTok's massive for some artists. And then the streaming side of things is definitely on the forefront, whereas before that, you were more kind of storefront, and there's a lot less competition. I think back in the day, there's a lot more competition now, but there's also a lot more opportunity now. So it kind of swings and roundabouts. It's all kind of relative, in my point.
Yeah, I think also one of the ways that I've just seen it change over like the short amount of time that I've been in the industry is, I don't know, the shift from like pop being kind of the main thing to like hip hop taking a lot of focus now. And also just like I see more and more like artists who are like not defining themselves by genre and being more like genre benders. I feel like that's definitely more common now.
I have a question specifically for you, Karamay. Sorry,
Mhm.
give me 1 second, Angel. And as an A&R, right?
Mhm.
How has that genreless space that a lot of artists in has it changed how you approached the work that you specifically do?
I mean, I think I see like more and more like in terms of like when people are sending tracks that they'll label it as something that's multiple genres. So instead of just saying singer-songwriter, they'll say singer-songwriter, pop, alt, like all of that crossover. So I guess just in before hearing it, just seeing the way it's labeled just gives you a different vision going into listening to it, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Angel.
I feel like music has changed so much because like, I mean, I don't do any of the technical stuff that's involved in music, but like, I mean, the literal shape and the landscape of it is just completely transformed. I think what's changed the most for me, especially, is when I came out, there were no other female rappers really, aside from like Iggy, Azalea, and Nicki. And now there's like an array of different female rappers. And for me, that changes so many things. It almost makes me feel freer in a sense, like more liberated, and able to do more things, because back then it was like, you know, girl rappers or blah, 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 whatever. And there's just so much dexterity now that when I come out, I can come all guns a-blazing and no one will look at me like, oh, she's crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's exciting times. And also hip hop, we really did take over, bro, as we were intended to. And that's like life. I think it's a great time for music. There's not an avenue that you can't use to pop off. Like you're not limited in your resources. And I think that's enormously different from 2013. Like that's a like almost like we went to the future from Back to the Future, dude. Like it's crazy. But yeah.
One of the words you said, which just popped like stuck out to me, was liberation. Where do you see the industry heading as we see a lot more artists gaining control of their masters and just overall brand ownership? And you know, for what are the opportunities in that, and what are the challenges in that for you as an artist, you know, Selena as a manager, and Carrie May as an A&R? Like, how does that inform how you do business going forward?
For me as an artist, I think it's like, it's one thing to realize that you can own everything that you produce without feeling the need to cut anyone in aside from the people that, you know, do the work for you. The alternative to that is that you don't really get the same advancing as like a bigger budget label where you would give up some of the control, et cetera, et cetera. But you've seen it work out. You saw it work out with Anderson .Paak. You saw it work out with Daniel Caesar. You saw it work out with so many people. And Daniel Caesar is still independent to this day, being one of the biggest artists. Megan Thee Stallion being on a distro company to going to a major label. So you see that you have the power to bend this world to your will, and at some point to give a little bit of your power away. I guess I wouldn't say your power because I guess it makes it daunting, but I mean, I guess people should really know, like you really gonna give some stuff up, and that is what it is. Yeah.
What's your take?
I mean, I come from a major label background. I know the importance that a label can provide and the resources that it brings, especially the money side of things. But I also know as well that the labels are very stretched as well, compared to how they were back, you know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So I believe that the management team now have to step into that place, regardless whether you've got a label or not, and almost product manage those artists, because there's not enough resources in the label to be able to provide that, unless you're obviously top priority, but you still need that kind of coordinator between all the different territories and everything. I've been doing a lot of independent releases over the last 10 years. I like it. But the downside is the money. I think it definitely is the money. It's hard. It's so hard to release records. There's so much involved in it, from the mix to the master to the video, artwork, photo shoots, video shoots. You know, it's a lot of money. So it is difficult independent, but it would be great to be able to sustain a living for an artist independently.
And a little bit more about that from that side of it, because I feel like when I see the headlines and artists like own my masters and all this stuff, and I think it's great. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm trying to negate it. I think that's the part of the narrative that isn't really talked about, is like how hard it is to have the same level of success as a major label backed artist when you are truly independent, and not like the quasi-independent artist, but really, really independent, when you're out there doing everything pretty much on your own, self-funding, all of that. Like, can you just talk about the realities of that a little bit more, please?
The downside, did you say?
Just the realities of it all.
The reality of it,
Really
it's, you know, I mean, it depends on the particular artist and what you want to do. But, you know, even the cheapest video is probably going to be $3,000 to $4,000. You can probably get a friend to film it, or some college students and stuff, but you're still trying to navigate through, and you've got so many releases, and every release needs to have artwork, every release needs to have a press release, you want some publicity, you want all of these things. It's harder to get playlists as an independent artist. Spotify and the likes of Apple, etc., all have a certain amount that they have to give to each of their labels, who essentially own a piece of that pie. So, you know, there's there's definitely an upside to being on that label in terms of power and money. But then again, you are given control. I think the best situation you could be in I mean, if you're flying independently, then there is going to be, the distributors do have money to be able to reinvest. How much money is still not the same as what a label can provide. But I also think there's a downside to taking so much money off a label, because then you're in debt, and then they don't want to push you as much, and then you've got a tour coming up, and they don't want to give you tour support because you're already in debt. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts in everything you do. And I think you just got to be as smart as possible and try to keep as much control as possible and play the game. And I think that's what wakes me up every morning. I like the challenge. I always wanted the horses to throw me off when I went horse riding, you know. So I'm a sucker for this stuff. I love it. It's the adrenaline.
That's like one of the best wild. I like that. I like the horses throw me off. I'm going to steal that just to let you know.
It's a true story, though. It's honestly a true story. It's true. It's all
I'll
true.
take none of that.
Carrie Mae, from your perspective, what's your thoughts about the new evolution of freedom that artists can potentially have in terms of owning their masters and their rights to their works?
I mean, overall, I think it's great that more so now than like 20 years ago or longer, like artists are aware of that ownership and aware of that, like more so than in the past. But I do kind of agree with Angel in the sense that like for some artists, like it might be better to be on a major label. And like Selena said, like if they have that like priority driving them, but for a lot of other artists, like independent is more the route. And then there's also like distribution if you wanted to do a deal like that, but the costs add up, and like major labels have connections in some ways that independents don't. So I think it depends on the artist and what they need and what their kind of budget is with things.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about it. Like just in general, there is no one silver bullet answer for any particular artist. Like you have to figure out what works best for you and find that matrix of things.
Definitely. And just having a good team around you.
Exactly. And to that point, can you talk about what it takes to be good at the work that you do as an A&R manager? What skills do you have to possess or gain and learn to be really, really solid at that type of position?
I mean, I think having or just developing a sound for what you think is good and what you think sounds like different and maybe hasn't been heard before is definitely a lot of it. A lot of what I do on like a day-to-day is just like listening, looking for new artists, seeing if they could collaborate with ours. Besides that, I guess just like a lot of other industry positions, just like organization, networking, things like that.
She's being humble here. She's being very humble.
I can sense that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, Cara Mae started working with me a year ago, and as an intern originally, when COVID first happened, and she came out of UCLA, and she's absolutely blown me away. Like, she is incredible. She finds opportunities. She'll go after. I'll have a song that's amazing, and then she'll be like, right, here's a list of 30 artists that would sing this song, and then she'll go after them, and she's got that tenacity and drive and kind of, you know, thinking 5 steps ahead, and just that hunger, and a really good ear and a good instinct. And yeah, I think yeah, she was very humble then. A lot more.
Thank you.
Selena, as your role as in your role as a manager, what skills do you have to employ and continue to refine to be good at your job?
I think I had to learn. I think I had to learn to let go of control. A manager's supposed to have a control of everything, which is really hard to let go of control. But I've learned a lot more, especially since working with Karame, because I trust her so much. But yeah, just like that letting over control, and the characters I have to have is to have control of everything. There's nothing that I can let slip. It's like I have to see it all in front of me, and I have to hold it all up and to make new things happen. And sort of, yeah, I don't know, it's magic. That's my role, create magic. It's
funny, in the class I teach about management, the first slide says, what do managers do? And I toss it to my class. And then the next slide says everything, and it's pictures of all kinds of stuff. Right? And I'm like, that's what managers do. Like, they literally do it all. Can you elaborate on that in terms of like just what your day-to-day is like, in terms of everything that you have to keep tabs on and keep pushing as a personal manager? Yeah. Every single artist is different depending on what they need and what they want and what their drive is, what their vision is. But I don't know if not all managers have the same strategy, but for me, I'm very particular about knowing every single income stream and going after that. So that's a hunger that I look for on all parts, making sure that everything's registered across the PRS and ASCAP and BMI, and creating new opportunities, finding things, literally like just going after everything, meeting with people, creating sessions, finding people to write with and opportunities to partner with. And then on an independent side, when the artist is independent, we are the record label. So everything that is put out is from us, from, creating the ISSC codes, down to releases and videos and everything you could think of. Keeping everyone in check and making sure everyone's happy as well. I think that's important. I always say managers also are really like good psychologists, because they have to really be able to think about what other people, in particular their talent and their clients, are experiencing, to try to help them move through that in a positive manner that can also not damage the success of the artist. It's a lot.
Yeah, it has to come from the artist as well. I'll drive what the artist wants. If they really don't want, say they don't want to be social media, you can't force someone. You can say what the pros and what the benefits are, but if they're not that, then you have to find some other avenue. And I think, we can't just completely control artists and mold them, because there's no right and wrong. There's no rule book. There's what's worked for some hasn't worked for others. Some things work for it. You just have to deal with what you've got, really. I don't like to micromanage so much.
And Angel, as an artist, a writer, and MC, what skills does it take for you to sustain a career in this industry?
Hey, bro, don't forget singer. Don't do me like that.
I'm just playing.
No, it takes an incredible resilience. I think the only thing that I can attribute to like my success and my inability to go away is resilience. Like I want something. I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna stop until I get it. And whatever avenue is gonna work for me is gonna be the one that's designed for me. And I think a lot of what I'm learning as an artist is that, like Selena's been saying, not everything looks the same for everyone. Like I said, I've been a lot of places, and I've only been in music for almost 7 years now. So it's like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, Jesus, how much more can you learn? And for me, it's like, it's exciting because at one point I might become Leo Cohen, or like someone different who finds artists, who, you know, grows them, who does whatever. And I'm appreciating the opportunity to learn from every aspect, not just as an artist. And I think that's also something that you need to always be hungry to learn, to know, and to be aware of where you are.
Oh, thank you. There's a question from the Q&A section from Madison. She asked you, Angel, how long did it take you to quit your day job and do music full time?
Oh, this embarrassing, bro. All right. I won't cap to y'all because I don't believe it, but I haven't worked since I was 16 years old. I think the last job I had was at McDonald's. And I remember I only worked there for like maybe 9 days. I did a week in training, and then the first day I worked there, I broke the coffee machine. And they were like, I didn't know that they had a camera on me, but they were like, yo, Angel, did you break the coffee machine? I was like, why are you accusing me of it? Because I'm Black. And then I was just going crazy, like wilding in the thing. Yo. So then I was like, yo, my bad, y'all. I got a death in the family. I can't come back. And I never went back. But my mom went through the drive-through and she was like, yo, what happened to my daughter? She said they fired her. And they were like, she said you guys had someone die, blah, blah, blah. And I realized at that point, I could never work a job, like at all. But what I also realized was that there are so many ways to monetize character. And for me, I think what I learned was sitting in front of my computer telling people things that I hate with like, you know, such an intensity that they believed they hated it too, was like sellable. I was making money. I was like, okay, I would make 400 in 2 weeks at a job. And I just made that in 1 week on a video. So if you think about it, there are ways to like just go about it. At the end of the day, I think that I was very fortunate to have, you know, my mom and her basement and so many different things to accommodate me on my journey that most people don't have. So like, I wouldn't say quit your job or whatever, but I would say think of other revenue streams while you work. I tell all my homeboys that. One of my friends works in a warehouse right now. He calls me every day. He's like, bro, I've been thinking about millions and millions of dollars. I got an app idea. I got this, I got that. And I'm like, yeah, turn it into something tangible. And at the end of the day, you'll make money. And before you know it, because he's a producer too. So it's like, this will just be something that you can do. You know what I mean? And it's not something that you're chasing so much that you're hungry and your stomach's growling and you're angry and you're sick of it. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really important thing. So do what you need to do to make money, but find time to make money, you know, just come to you.
I want to stay there a little bit because you said a lot in that last answer, which is great. No, it's a lot to unpack there. But like, in terms of, let me reframe this. What challenges do you face navigating through a real fast-paced industry where people consume more music now than ever, right? And how do you find ways to remain true to yourself? Like, if I was an artist, how would you advise me to do that, given all of the dynamics going on in this current music environment?
I spend a lot of my time alone, if I'm being honest. Like, I think that it's great to have influence, but you got to watch what you're being influenced by. I realized that in the course of the past year, I've been kind of retraining my brain to not only think better about myself, but to think better about the world and the opportunities that are in it. And so consequently, I've had to cut a lot of things out of my day to day so that I can spend more time with me and to become accustomed with, like, you know, the things that I like to do, the things that I like, the ways that I like to feel, the things that I'm looking for in the world, the love that I want, et cetera, et cetera. And the only way that you get to know yourself is by being alone. We live in a culture of distraction. It's everything that we do is to distract us from what we feel. Even the way that I'm dressed right now is to distract me from what I feel. So it's like, at the end of the day, when you're being honest with yourself and you sit in that space of awareness, you always have access to growth because, you know, no one can take from you what you know about you. There's the world that's outside you that you exist in, but there's an even greater world that's internal, and you need to explore that. And the only time you have to do that is by yourself. So I think that's how I find ways to stay creative. I paint a lot. I go on long drives. I go to random places. I like riding dirt bikes. I like doing anything that makes me feel like good. And then because everything is so fast paced, like for me, it's really important to pace myself, like, because we see a lot of fast stuff burn out really quick. And it's almost like we have the microwavable food, and then you have that 5-star chef's cuisine thing, which is why it's been like 5 years and everyone's still going, Kendrick, when are you going to release an album, dude? Like, you have to know that like you're not standard when you walk into this. And if you standardize yourself, then you'll get standard results, dude. And then you'll be saying, oh, like double bags or like, you know, brown paper bag, whatever at the grocery store. And it's like not cool. So I think in this industry, following the trend is the wrong way to go. You are the trend. You set it for yourself. And for me, I've been lucky. It's been 5 years and I still, every day, I'm like, I turn off my comments on Instagram because I'm like, bro, I don't want people telling me you can ride a dirt bike, but you can't drop an album. Loser. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm lucky. Like, that's an amazing thing. Like, those are not a set of nice words, but the feeling behind it is someone wants something from you that you've been withholding to them, it seems like. But to me, I've been on a journey, and that's what I mean by pacing myself. I had to rediscover my love for myself, rediscover my love for music, rediscover my purpose, my message, so many different things, so that I could present something that was worthy of sitting in these people, in their stomachs, in their bodies, and whatever. And not just giving you like, you know, the same old regurgitated pain I've been spewing for years. And it's like, I want something different, you know? So I think just all of that is really important when it comes to being an artist and just balancing yourself.
Yeah, dope. I could go so many different places based on what you said. We have a little bit of time left, but I thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, no problem.
Switching back over to the business side just for a quick second, I want to make sure that we're educating while we're talking, given all the information that we're sharing. Just because, Selena, you're a manager and Carrie, you are an A&R. Can you just talk about the differences between the roles that you play? Like, you know, we didn't really talk about specifically what A&R is, and I know a lot of people usually are curious to what that is. Can you just talk about that and the dynamic of how you all work together to help craft and work with Angel to craft her career?
Me? I'll go.
Yeah.
An A&R is artist and repertoire. So anything to do with the songs and the creators around that project. So Karame will set up writing sessions between artists and writers together. And then off the back of that, the admin involved when we go to release a track, Karame's involved with all of the A&R admin, which is we create something called a label copy, which basically tells you exactly who did what on the track, and anything you need to know about that track is in this piece of document, which is quite a long-winded job, really, because you have to go to all these different people and try and find out where to register their side of the shares and everything. And then so anything into that, or pitching for, if we have some songs that say Angel recorded that she doesn't want for herself, Karame's job is to go and find homes for those songs. Or if we want the track mixed and mastered, anything to do with the song. So Karame will go and find the mixing engineers, and she'll come to Angel and say, here's 5 mixing engineers that I think that we should look at. And then Angel will choose one, and then Karame will be the person in between artist and mixing engineer to get the right mix from the record, and then on to the master, everything to do with the song. Karame also actually does a lot of management stuff as well. So she kind of crosses over into more of the management side of things. So when we have independent releases, we work and tag team between us, between all the different jobs, and we've got like a long checklist. And we do them together, and it's like press release, artwork, and we get all the tools, you know, the Spotify pitch, everything that you need to release a record, and anything and everything else in between, but anything to do with the artist, really. If that helps.
No, it makes very, very clear. Thank you. There's another question from the audience from Alborz. For Carrie Mae, what are your favorite go-to sources for scouting artists?
Well, I follow a lot of like playlisters, if that makes sense, on Spotify. And then I also just like look around on YouTube, SoundCloud. I also use a lot of like the fans also like on Spotify. So if I find someone I'm interested in or just like a song, I'll obviously like listen to them and like keep an eye on them, but also like look into what other artists are similar to them. So that's my main things, as well as like I also follow a lot of like music newsletter kind of things. So I'll look at like Music Business Worldwide, Digital Music News, things like that, and just if I hear about anyone who's like up and coming, any new collaborations, I'll just look at that.
Thank you. And when it comes to down to building a team for young artists, when do you say that an artist needs a manager, or needs an A&R, or needs a team? Like at what point, do they have things going on that they actually need to start to bring on resources and other people to help navigate the next phase of their career?
I think it just depends on the artist, and if they can find somebody who can manage them. I know that it's hard to get a manager because a manager will take a percentage, and if that artist isn't making any income, that's a percentage of nothing. So it is hard to get a manager if you're not currently making income. But if you're young and you're at college, even looking into the music programs at UCLA and look at those young up and coming, kids that want to be a manager, to find, if you're early and you don't have any income coming in and you want a manager, there are people out there that might want to get the experience and jump on it, or your friends, or, but I'd say if it is your friends, just to have that they want it as bad as you. Anybody on the team wants it as bad as you. You can't have to drive anybody or pull anyone up. And there's plenty of resources all over the internet. If you want to be an artist manager, there are courses, but you don't need to take courses. You can, work it out really if you need to.
And what would you say are the attributes of a good manager? Because you always hear the horror stories of bad ones. So.
Oh, good. No. I think it's like being married, right? So you just have to click with that person, and there's nothing you can't really put it on, but that the manager has to. I guess it's about having a compassion as well. I think, to care. If somebody doesn't care, then they can't really care for you and your needs. Does that make sense? You're laughing. Angel, stop it.
Makes total sense to me. It's like any other relationship. Yeah.
I'm not laughing at what you said. I'm laughing at the idea of us being married. That's what I'm laughing at. You're like, it's kind of like a marriage, but true that.
You need to, that's a lifelong commitment, really, I'd say.
Yeah.
Another question from the audience, from Ming Yu, it's what are some roles you do in your job that no one would guess you do? And that's for everyone.
I make cups of tea all the time. I do anything. I clean dressing rooms. Like I do everything. There's not a job beneath me. If we're at a TV show, we're at a venue, and everyone's made a complete mess, I won't walk out of there with a mess. I'll clean it up, because it's like some woman's going to come in, or man, and they're going to clean, and they could be your mum, and they could be your auntie, and it's not fair. So I clean. I just think
that talk.
You're dead clean anyway. You'll be fine. No, we there's 1,000 jobs. I think there's nothing that you shouldn't do,
Angel, Carrie Mae, any thoughts about that? Or
I mean,
that people don't know that you do, but you have to do?
I think just in general, like being at the artist's disposal for like any of those like small tasks that you wouldn't think would be in your job description, just, them texting you for like random tasks and you executing them.
Angel?
What were you,
Are you the random
texting
texter?
May? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Probably for the best.
I'm so dumb all the time, dude. Also, I don't know, but sorry, Carrie. Again, Carrie May, bro. But I think for me, it's definitely, I wasn't as involved at first because I was tremendously young. But I think being as involved in my business as I am, a lot of people don't expect that. I kind of like need to know now and want to know, and have designated every single part of my team to fit what I see myself as. So I'm kind of like realizing that I'm this great conqueror, spearheading this huge freaking ship on rocky waters. And I've got a crew of people to take to the promised land where there's crates and crates of dough just waiting for us, dough and bread. But pretty much, yeah, that's what I do.
We have one more question before we're going to open it up to Q&A from the audience. And Tiffany will be taking that and leading that for us. This is a question to everyone. If someone in the room is currently interested in pursuing your specific career, what should they be doing right now? So let's start with Carrie.
I think for me, like, even though I did pursue a minor in music industry, a lot of it was just hands-on experience and taking any resources. Like, you can find so many resources online to like educate yourself about like publishing rights, mastering, like DSPs, things like that. But I think for me, what really helped was doing internships and then having like really good mentors that were willing to teach me and guide me through.
Absolutely. Selena?
I agree with that. I've interned all my life. So I started my career as an intern. And also when I changed careers, I interned again, even after my Sony Music. I wanted to be a tour manager. So a friend of mine was going on tour in Italy for 3 weeks and I wanted to be a tour manager. And I was like, hey, look, if I pay for my own flight, my own everything, can I come and be your assistant tour manager and learn from your tour manager? And he was like, yeah, why not? So I went and I just shadowed this guy. And, I was already done 8 years at Sony Music. I'm not shy to do a bit of free work. If you want something, there's always a solution to get it, and it's how you get it. And, I did night jobs and worked weekends, nights, everything, clocking 120 hours to be able to do. I went to college, I had a full-time job, and I had internships. So I was kind of burning it all over, but I wanted it so bad that I had to get it, so internships all the way for me, and making yourself indispensable in them positions.
What you're really saying is there are no excuses, right? Like, if you want it, you got to go get it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I'd say that. Sorry. It might not be exactly what you want, but if you go for something, then you could. I didn't really write my own career path. I didn't say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but I just went into everything with 100%. Even in my paid jobs, working at a gas station, working in a restaurant, I gave those jobs 120%. Everything I did, I gave that level of output, and I think it gets noticed. And if you put yourself into a position and you put that output out, it's going to be received. If somebody's going to see that you're doing that, and you'll stand out.
So Angel, last question is for you.
Man, you got to be writing some bars.
No, for someone who wants to be an artist right now, what should they be doing?
Writing bars, bro. Writing some bars. You got to be sitting at your desk right now, palms sweaty, knees weak, arms heavy, bro. Like real life. Yeah. Say no. No, I think it's, again, you really have to work at your craft. Like, there's not a day where I don't create, even if it's just up here or in my notes. If I don't go to the studio, I'm writing something. If I'm not writing, I'm reading something. And reading is a large part of being an artist. A lot of people think that artists are stupid, and that's like, that could not be less true. Like, everything earned is fought for. And I mean that in a literal and a metaphorical sense. It's like all of my stuff I take my time with, and I put a lot of effort into. So I would say listen to what you like, disassemble it, create your own versions. find your own voice. That's a really, really important thing, because when you first start music, you sound like everything that you like until you know what you sound like. And that's a really, really important one. And I'm just gonna end it there. Find your voice.
I think that's a great way to end it. Tiffany, please share some of the questions from the Q&A section.
Hi, everyone in the panel. My name's Tiffany. I'm an audio design major at Columbia. So anybody who's watching right now that's from Columbia, shout out to y'all. I'm gonna focus on the Q&A from the people attending real quick, just because there's a lot of them, and I want to make sure you guys have a chance to answer them. So the first one's from Tatiana. For everyone, what's the best way for students to meet people in the industry?
Concerts, pretty much. I know that in colleges, like I've done a lot of college shows, so there's a lot happening around there. Festivals, amazing, but that's the same thing as a concert. I think just really putting yourself out there. You can go do what some of my friends do and sneak into Hollywood parties and hope you don't get caught and maybe someone notices you. But that's all I know.
I would for the music industry side, I'd say obviously before there were so many different events we could attend and we can't really now. Hopefully that's coming back. But I love a bit of LinkedIn, you know. There's incredible resources there on LinkedIn where you can meet people and you know, put yourself out there and chat with people and connect with people on a business level, you know. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the same kind of idea. Like I used to go to a lot of like networking events like this, like through Music Forward, through Live Nation, and then also just like reaching out to people on LinkedIn. Yeah, I feel like people are pretty open when you reach out there.
Yeah, because it's not personal at all. I think if you message people on Facebook, it's a bit weird, you know, whereas LinkedIn, it's a business situation. And I answer most messages that come through to LinkedIn. And if anybody wants to like meet with me and stuff like that, I always do a call or try to fit some time into people. Like I know that I had some great mentors in my past, you know, I had probably like 4 female bosses, and every single one of them really, I connected with them and they put me into great positions. And I know the importance of that. So I try my best to give back now while I can.
I love that. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Cool. Okay, so this next one is, what strategies do you employ to keep your fan base interested in between releases, especially if you are developing new material and you work slow, based off of what Angel Haze said earlier?
Sheesh. I like to completely disappear, dude. Like once it's work time, it's really heads down working. I think the most active I am is on Instagram through stories. But I think there is a greater like alleviation for me of stress when I'm just like vapor and not focusing on what's happening outside of my process. But it also is a greater reward for fans because, like, you know, you never know what's going to come. Like, you never know what's going to happen if you haven't had any clue what this person's been up to. I think that right now, everyone worries about people forgetting them and, you know, people's attention being so fly by night. But, like, you never forget the shit you love. Like, that's life. So that's it. I don't know. That's the only advice I have, honestly.
Does anybody else want to comment on
that? From a business point or, you know, label standpoint, if you did want to just keep it going, then just on your social media, you know, nothing too much if you're not promoting at the time, you know, even just 1 or 2 posts a week or 1. But I'm also a fan of artists having a break, you know, if they've had a long cycle and they've been touring and they've been at it, a promo and everything, I think can be some overkill, especially now there's so much going on. But I do know it's just, I think that we're kind of, you know, you've got the algorithms. I think we're all scared of the algorithm dropping. Algorithmic fear is called, I think, where you just don't want that stuff to stop. So I know that people have that, but I believe I do feel comfortable. I think it's about feeling comfortable and not being living in fear, because living in fear is just you're not gonna get anything out of it at the end. If you're scared that everything's gonna go away, you just need to make sure when you come back that music is undeniable and everyone's like, wow, that's what we'll be waiting for. You know, you can't just drop, a turd at the end of it. Sorry.
Oh, you should have heard the ugly laughter I did just now, bro. You so lucky I was on mute. On mute. Oh, man.
Hey, you know what? I like to have fun when I work. Like, why are we in this for not having fun?
Yo, those
It's
real
true.
words
You
were
know,
said,
it's true.
bro.
It's true.
Yeah, I waited a long time for some of my favorite artists to drop, and then their next album wasn't like their last album, which I hope no one ever says about me, because I'll cry. I will fucking cry, bro. But yeah, I think it's just, doing what you feel is right, because some artists like are very social. Like, I'm not a social person. Like I said, I spend most of my time alone, and when I see people, I wave and I say hi and show them my teeth and stuff, but I still am alone after that. So I think it just really is all about who you are as an artist and what you do that makes you interesting, and how much belief you have in that magical little part of you that's interesting. So
Definitely.
Sorry for the turd.
yo,
I didn't know what else to call it.
there, man.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to my questions now because we're running out of time. So the first one is regarding identity. Did you always know who you were, and can you take us on the journey of finding your identity, especially throughout being in the music industry at such a young age? Angel?
Oosh. I hate saying this, but like, I've always been a really observant person, and in my nature of observing others, I have to be aware of myself and respect to them. And I think a lot of what drives me and my identity is awareness. So at every point in my life, I have known who I was, even if the person's changed. And I think a part of knowing who you are is not being resistant to you changing. From like 5 to 10, I was someone totally different than I am now. But I always knew that, like, and I hate saying that there's something different about me, because I think there's something different about everyone in that sense. But I always like just said less, knew more. And with my identity, it was more about me believing, like, and trusting my intuition, and trusting the thing that is in me that just kind of sits in the middle of you. That's like, it's weird. But yeah, like I'm also Native American. So if you mean in regards to like gender identity, so it's like two-spirited is a part of my culture. And that really just means that you share like commonalities with both genders, and you kind of sit in the middle. But it's not like agender or like non-binaryism where you don't want anything to do with it. So I don't think that like anything special happened to me to make me realize that, like, I don't know who I am, but I've just always been so obsessed with documenting it, like just the journey. I'm scared that I'll forget things, and that's a large part of my identity.
Okay, so this next question, unless anybody else has anything they want to add to that question. Okay, so this next question relates to some of the feedback that you got at the beginning of your career, first entering hip hop. And I wanted to know how you combated the stereotypes that came with you entering the music industry based off your identity, and the attempts to discredit you and your craft because of the lack of exposure that you had to hip hop before you began this.
Oh man, if I'm honest, I remember it was really important to me when I was a kid that I didn't get to listen to music. It was like I was missing out on something. And for the times where I wasn't homeschooled and I was in regular school, so like I remember distinctly, like in 7th grade, I was in Pennsylvania. I was living there at the time, and I went to school, and some kid comes up to me and he's like, "I've got some milkshake on my face," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I had no clue that he was singing, you know, Khalees's song "Milkshake Brings the boys to the yard" or whatever. So there was like this huge feeling that I'm like missing out on something that's shaping everyone's identity, and shaping everyone's, you know, just experience of the world. And it bothered me a lot. So when I finally got the opportunity later on in my life to listen to music, I just fell in love with it. A lot of people don't know, but I was published when I was 14. My first poem was published. I won a contest at my school, and it was a poem I wrote about what it would be like if I heard music, and if I could just be in that space. And then I signed, and I read all these articles about how Angel Haze should never be a rapper. She grew up not listening to anything. I cried. I won't lie. I cried because I felt like that was such a coveted space. And then even more now covet it because I had no access to it early on. But the thing that I love about music is that no one owns it. It's for everyone. And that's why I think that artists are angels. We're the only people who touch the world all at once. Like everyone can listen to the same song at one time. And it's just special in that way. So I disregarded it and I kept going. And I still disregard it a lot and I keep going because at the end of the day, now I have more musical knowledge than half the people I know. And it's kind of crazy. It's like I wanted it and I hunger for it. Like there's not a second, even right now, there's music playing faintly in my background. You can't hear it, but I can. I need that to drive me. And I think that's special. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So this is the last question because we are like completely out of time. And I always ask this as the last question. What is one piece of advice you would give everybody that's watching, like your most ultimate piece of advice? If it was the last thing you could ever say to these people.
In the world, sheesh, if it was my last second to talk to anyone alive, I would tell people that nothing ever happens to you. Everything happens for you. And if you can realize a way to use your life to your best advantage, you can become anything you want. You can experience any part of existence you want. You can do pretty much anything. I remember being a kid, being so angry, telling my mom, I'm going to grow up and change my name to Rainbow Starshine Tree something, and you'll never see me again. I'll live in California. I'll be famous. I'll sing. I'll do all this other stuff. And I said all of that with so much anger and brazenness, but like some part of me meant it. And I found my way. I'm still finding my way through that journey of like believing that I can. So like every single thing that's happened in your life is only to propel you forward. And you got to remember that. You can never let it push you down. Flowers don't grow downward, they come up. So know that, internalize that, and peace. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for those wise words, Angel. We really appreciate it. We are at the end of our time together. We would love to continue talking, but thank you to all of our panelists for your insights and to everyone for joining us today.